All right, so we're going to get into some Tesla topics today. I think you guys are going to love this. We'll really dive in deep on not only what's happening at Tesla strategically, but also look at kind of the forward thinking of where Tesla could be going on the back half side of the show. So we're going to dive into all that good stuff. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Joining me today is Ross Gerber, who is the president and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki, and one of the most prolific people, I think, in the Tesla hemisphere. So great to have you on the show today, Ross.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul.
Excellent. So Ross, let's get into, I want to talk about just Tesla in general. When you look at the current state of Tesla overall, and I guess the biggest topic that is of current right now, and that's all about these price decreases. We got a chance to see the year-end price decrease right before, I think it was the last week. Actually got a chance to participate in that. Mainly I was testing it to see how Tesla was handling it. And then, of course, second week of January, we see this monster price decrease. Do you think there will be more coming down the pipeline?
More price decreases?
Yes.
No, it's the opposite. I think these won't last very long because they're selling Teslas like faster than I've ever seen. It's such an amazing value. I was with a good friend of mine last night who's a big Tesla person, and he does Turo with one of his Teslas, and he nets a certain amount of money each month renting his Tesla on Turo. And we were doing the math of if you bought 10 Teslas today and put them all on Turo, could you make a 25% margin? And basically we came down to, you could make 100% return on your investment using Turo if you buy a Tesla at this price today and get the discount from the government. So this is an insanely generous deal to basically clear all the Tesla inventory. And I expect that this will be, prices will change higher after Q1.
All right, so you feel that right now this is simply a sales strategy. Let's go in, clean out the inventory, look at trying to build up some more demand in the sense of order lag. I have two Teslas. I've waited over a year for both of them. In fact, back in the day when we were ordering those back in 2021 and 22. So that, of course, has all changed now with the Tesla delivery cycles now down to 1 to 3 months. With this deep of a cut, do you think this is going to have any kind of implications on the current Tesla owners that purchased in 2022?
Yeah, and this is sort of my gripe with the way things go down at Tesla, where to make such a dramatic change in price, really just to get under the government's guidelines so that the EV credits would count for the Model Y, along with all the other models.
Right.
I think that this is my gripe. I mean, I think that they should have done something for the people who, the 400,000 people who bought Teslas in Q4, and you could give them 6 months of free autopilot. It costs you nothing, give a little goodwill. In the haphazard manner that Elon has been making decisions around Tesla for a long time actually does hurt people's feelings about Tesla. And I think I've never seen Tesla's brand take such a hit, not because of the price cuts, but because of Elon's behavior. And then secondly, then these things are then sort of hated even more because there's already negative sentiment. And then the haters jump on all this stuff. And I'm back to fighting FUD, half my day. And, but then when he price cuts so dramatically, he's really testing the economics of the EV ecosystem in some ways. And what he's proven, and why I think the stock is moving higher today, is that there is unlimited demand for EVs. The only thing holding back was price, not necessarily demand. And so now that they've moved down price dramatically, the demand skyrocketed for Teslas, and they're selling them all. And now they're going to realize that this price is too low. And at some point, they're going to sell out of inventory and start to have wait times again. But I think it's best for Tesla to have less than a 3-month wait time for a car. Nobody,
I would agree.
It's annoying owning especially cars, because your lease is ending and you want to buy a new car. If you don't know when you're going to get it, it sucks. And I've had this when I've bought Teslas where it's my lease is ending, or I want to sell my car, or I sell my car, but then I got to get my Tesla and I got to time this right. And, I've had some good luck with it, but I've heard many stories of delays and whatever. I think if I go online, I buy a car, if I can get it in 30 to 90 days, like that's ideal. And so one of the stories that isn't being told is the ramp at Berlin and Austin is going well. And that's why we're seeing a much higher supply of vehicles during a period of time where China really got hit with COVID and the economy. So this is a one-time deal. And I think anybody who's extrapolating out anything different, it's mostly because of a lack of communication from Tesla. And they should have said, this is a 3-month sale. And it would have even stoked even more demand if people knew that there was a limit to how long this was going to be. Because once he raises prices again, for whatever reason, then everybody will be like, oh, why didn't you tell us that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it's kind of a double-edged sword to your point. Yeah, double-edged sword. The interesting thing when we were going through the process of ordering a Model S at the end of the year, because of the $7,500 credit, which was actually a credit into the price of the Model S, not a tax credit, but an actual discount.
Right, it was better.
Yeah, and then you got the 10,000 free supercharging miles. So it was some advantage there. And I had a Model Y that we put in on the trade. We were going to trade in one of the Model Ys we have. And the interesting thing that came back was the trade-in value. And it immediately hit me. And I was like, okay, something's up. This was in the last week of December. And I just asked the Tesla team there at the dealer here in Miami. And I said, okay, guys, come on, something's up here. This is a major discount off of that car that was only purchased 5-6 months ago. What's going on? And that's when they indicated that we're probably going to see a price decrease in the car, which is why that was their reason for giving such a low price on the Model Y. So this is a very interesting position.
This is also part of the problematic nature of what's going on, because there's a lot of people who have used Teslas, let's say, that they wanted to sell, and then the prices go down. Prices have been going up for Teslas substantially, which is part of the story that isn't being told. Over the last year or two, there were several price hikes that, if you wanted to buy a Model Y, you were talking well into the 65,000+ price range.
Sure.
So, for most people, they buy a car around $45,000 to $50,000. I think the average sale price of a car is between $40,000 and $45,000. So now with the tax credits getting you down into that range, like basically a huge market of potential Tesla buyers appeared that really couldn't afford the car before. But for everybody who owned a Tesla and really perceived that the value was higher because of a lack of supply of Teslas and huge demand, that has now changed. The prices change. And what we really learned is that Teslas are really an asset and not a liability. And it literally trades based off supply and demand like any other asset. And so that bodes real well for people buying Teslas today, because essentially you're buying that asset cheap because of the issues in China. And we know the issues in China will be gone in 2 months.
Right. Yeah, this is going to be one to watch for sure, because to your point, it's such a unique situation that a car company is in, because you don't have this with any other vehicle maker out there.
No, so every other vehicle goes down in value situation. For sure. Yeah.
Let's get into China.
So lastly, just to that point, everybody just wrote down their earnings estimates for Tesla now to $5, under $5, assuming that these prices are going to be the annual prices for Tesla.
Right.
And I think that's a false assumption as well. And we also don't know what their cost structure looks like as we go through the year, which we see decreasing their cost structure per vehicle substantially as Austin and Berlin scale, and as costs for commodities and other chips and other manufacturing costs have gone down. So I think people are prematurely, cutting estimates, assuming a lot of things that will be much different in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about just in general China and the situation that kind of has come up with things like I won't call projects, but companies like BYD, et cetera, who are doing a good job, at least in China. Tesla, of course, coming in, I think, at number 2 right now in total EV sales. How much of a demand issue do you think they'll face in China, if there is one? And how do you think the Chinese car makers will be able to manage the competition landscape with Tesla?
So China has gone through a very unique period with COVID, very different than American experience. and you see it from our forms of government where Americans were like, screw you, we're going to do what we want. And
Right.
in essence, because of that, everybody got COVID quicker. Some people got COVID 2 and 3 times, and we're back to normal. I was flying on a plane the other day. Nobody's wearing a mask. Nobody cares. Life is back to normal in America. You can go to a football game, a theater, it's packed, right? So COVID still exists, but Americans got back into economic growth in 2021, and so much so that it forced the Fed's hand. China took a very different and much more draconian approach to trying to beat a virus, which failed. And after many, many years of essentially jailing their entire society, she understood that the damage to the economy, which we're now seeing in their GDP numbers, but the damage to the psychology, their economy, and their long-term future was so dramatic that it was worth it to him to completely reverse his failed policies, which I did not expect at all. And probably one of the things that I'm most bullish about for 2023 is this, because now everybody in China is sick. It's super hard time. This was a haphazard way to do it. The hospital system is not that good there. Our sources are basically like, everybody's sick, but people are getting better, and now they're going out, and now there's no restrictions, and everything's off. And what's happening, it also happened in America, where a lot of people want to buy vehicles because they want to travel. They're not as into mass transportation, maybe because of COVID. But now you've got this demand that will be unleashed for vehicles. In China now sold 25% of all vehicles were EVs. So what that means is 75% of the Chinese auto market is still up for grabs for EV makers. And even though the competition in China for Tesla is real, whether it be NIO or Xpeng or any of the other players, Tesla is still the king. BYD is the queen. BYD counts hybrids in their numbers. So they seem bigger, but they're not actually bigger than Tesla on the EV side. But BYD is a great company. They're definitely like the Tesla of China. And these two companies, Tesla and BYD, will lead the way in China. So we don't look at, as I said, other EVs as competition for Tesla. It's really ICE vehicles and this, sort of cannibalization of if 100% of cars were ICE, now 93% of US cars sold are ICE, but soon it will be, let's say, 75% of US cars sold are ICE. And so the ICE cars are the ones that are losing resale value, will lose long-term value, and also the cost of operation and just the superior, like even bad EVs are better than good ICE cars. So consumers get it.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Converting my wife from an ICE vehicle to an EV has been an interesting process. Let's get into
Mine too.
let's get into the scenario of FSD. This is, I've been somewhat of a Tesla bull over the past few years, and we used to do a ton of videos here on this channel about Tesla, the future of what full self-driving might look like, what the robo-taxi network could look like. I mean, there was a lot of speculation. The reality now for me has set in. I've had a chance to have FSD. I've had a chance to experience it. It's not all that. And I think this is a big challenge for Tesla in terms of the optics around this, even to the sense of where maybe it's causing other car manufacturers to vacate their idea around what full self-driving might look like. What's your position on this?
I like your question. So I work with some of the LiDAR people because we have an investment in Luminar, and we have an investment in Polestar, which is building a system around Google software, Luminar and NVIDIA. And so I really looked at both systems. This is something I spend a lot of time in studying and trying to learn. And what's happened at Polestar and what's happening across the industry led by Waymo and Cruise is that their systems don't work. So, we're seeing this pivot to, we want our cars to be like super safe or driver assist or driver help, but how do we make cars super safe with this technology? And that's what Polestar's selling, not I'm going to sell you a full self-driving thing, pay for it now, and maybe in 5 years it'll work, And so I think it's really appealing to consumers to say, we have the most high-tech safety system in the world, because I think a lot of consumers don't care about full self-driving. Okay. Like my wife, she won't use it.
Agreed.
No matter how many times I try. And I literally, the other day we were driving like an hour, and she's driving, and I'm like, just put on full self, like put on autopilot. We were on the highway, and I put it on. I forced her to put it on, and she hates it. She just disengages it. And I'm like, why don't you trust this? And she's like, I'll never trust this. But if you sell it as like, I'm going to make your car super safe, there's this huge group of people, consumers, that just don't care about full self-driving. Elon's biggest problem is over promising and under delivering. Yeah. That's his biggest problem. He's been doing it his whole career, and I always said, Elon, stop saying what your goals are, because a goal is different than a promise. Okay. So my goal for my company might be X, but if I promise that goal, it's just viewed differently. And these are the optics I've been working so hard for Elon to try to understand. And what I spend so much time, not only within Tesla and the community, trying to explain him and trying to tone down expectations from things that aren't going to happen on the short term. Now, I just use full self-driving on the way to work, and I think it's amazingly great software that isn't ready for me to not pay attention at all.
Right.
But every week it gets better. It just gets better. I mean, it does. Is it ready? No. I mean, like, obviously I'm not going to like go to sleep and full self-driving, but I have fallen asleep on autopilot. It's like, and the warning lights go off or whatever. Autopilot, I trust 100% on the highway. I do, but full self-driving isn't there yet. But it is so far ahead of everybody else that if there is going to be a solution, it's 100% Tesla. And I absolutely believe over time they will solve this. But I think we need to have realistic timeframes.
Yeah, very good. So your point, and just a quick answer here, does the FSD campaign that Elon kind of lodged out there, the idea of robotaxis, not hitting this, does this hurt the brand of Tesla overall?
No, not at all. Once again, I think what I'm trying to do, like, I'm supposedly running for the board of Tesla now because I'm so frustrated dealing with Tesla that it's about time that somebody forced Tesla to act like a regular company. Okay. And part of what regular companies do is work very hard, not just with investors, but with customers, for people to have the correct expectations of their products and services. And you have companies like Apple who are super successful on the consumer side. There's probably no more consumer product success than Apple. And you think about the expectations we have for an iPhone, which are so high. It works every time. Every app's got to work every time. It's never been hacked. And behind the scenes, they work super hard so that your experience, like when you buy a new iPhone or an iPad, it is so easy to get it to upload all your stuff. And I mean, you can buy new devices left and right, and they made it so easy. In the old days, you had to plug your phone into some other thing and, download data and upload it onto the new phone. It'd be all messed up.
Yeah.
So if you set expectations for people, like we're going to have full self-driving and it's going to work in 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks it's not there, it's just disappointing people. Yeah. But if you say, look, our goal is to build this robotaxi system, and we will build it. But for investors and people thinking that this might be a short-term goal, that's probably not going to happen. But this works so well already that it's better than most drivers over 75 or under 20. Okay. So I like following really old drivers in LA on full self-driving to compare who drives better.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that full self-driving actually does drive better than most 75-year-old or plus drivers. And there are tons of those people on the road.
No, I understand.
But if they marketed it, like if you're 75 and you're a little nervous about driving around, but if you get full self-driving, like this will help you, a lot of old people would buy Teslas.
Yeah, I think you're right.
If you say, it's a robotaxi, they're like, it's marketing. Right.
Yeah, it's the marketing.
And they have nobody actually who does marketing at Tesla.
Exactly. Well, many would say Elon does marketing by putting out a tweet.
Well, he does not. Elon is marketing for Twitter on a daily basis. Okay. And he does throw in some pro Tesla stuff. But one of the things I'm working very hard to do is that it should not be Elon's Tesla anymore. It should be Tesla.
Yeah. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have no issues with him as an innovator or whatever, but to think that Elon is somehow, this was my mistake. I thought he would help Tesla by buying Twitter, but what he has done is hurt Tesla at the expense of helping Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's a reality that he doesn't want to accept.
Yeah, you're in the same boat as me. When I heard the news, when we reported on the news, I thought, okay, this is a good thing for Tesla. Somehow this is going to help the company overall. What the reality has been, not necessarily the case, or at least in my opinion, if you look at stock price and just his attention and focus, what do you think it's going to take for Elon to either one, refocus on Tesla, or at least put a C-level executive in there that really is going to get back in the driver's seat here for Tesla?
So I was with a really good Tesla friend of mine last night, as I was saying, and he's known Elon for a long time and Tesla forever. And he's very close. We had a long talk, and at the end of this conversation, I came to the conclusion that we're not getting him back. Okay.
Okay.
This Elon, the Tesla Elon is gone. It's a reality. It's called accepting reality that Elon's moved on. Tesla is one of his companies now. And I think that we need to accept that he will be building Twitter for some time and he will be focused on this for some time. And that is his new big quest to somehow be the arbitrator of speech and what's right or wrong in the world, which is contrary to Tesla's goals. And so I think there's synergies between Twitter and Tesla that can happen, but I think that fundamentally it's a conflict of interest, his interest in Twitter versus the goals of Tesla. And Tesla needs to start working to be an independent company that was founded and maybe run by Elon, but has its own voice so that everything he says and does isn't somehow extrapolated out on Tesla. And it shouldn't be. It's like, we don't like his political statements, whether you agree or disagree, should not be affecting Tesla.
Exactly.
But it does because he was the chief marketing officer of Tesla. Well, now Tesla needs a chief marketing officer. And Tesla, so I ran a thing this weekend. I said, everybody put up your best ads. And I got these great ads made.
Yeah.
And like two of them in particular, were phenomenal. And I was like, if in the New York Giants game, Eagles game this weekend, they ran a Tesla ad, one of these, it would buzz like nuts. Everybody would be talking about Tesla. So that's what they need to do, is just go out and spend $10 million and do a national, like big sports events, like Tesla kicks ass, and just make Tesla Tesla. And Elon can be Elon and we can all be happy. Right. But this game that Elon is somehow marketing for Tesla is not a reality. And he's not coming back to Tesla to be the big CEO again and running Tesla and being that person we love so much in 2021 is gone.
Man, that's a huge statement.
It's just a different Elon. He has a different focus.
Yeah. And I think, with that, and you look at, kind of the issue, even with that, if that were to happen and we got, and I say Tesla was able to snag a really top level automotive CEO. Maybe we look at, the guy getting ready to depart VW.
Right.
But there's some great opportunities there. Even if that were to happen, do you think Elon's position in terms of how he tweets and his whole role of how he addresses society would still have an effect on Tesla, even if he were to kind of do a hands-off?
It will still affect Tesla, and I think Elon's participation in Tesla is crucial. Whether titles are kind of BS. You can call him CEO, you can call him Chief Engineering Officer. A lot of that is just optics. He's not running Tesla day to day. I don't care what he says. He told me he hasn't missed a meeting or whatever, but you can just tell by people's focus on what they're doing, what they're talking about. And he certainly is on Twitter all day long on every issue. And he's super responsive to every issue on Twitter, and that's where he's focused. And I don't think we should, I don't think that's a bad thing, other than him not communicating with people that this is going to be his focus, whether it be for the next year or two. Then there should be another CEO. But if he's going to come back to being a real CEO at Tesla that he was paid $53 billion for, then he should do that and get a CEO of Twitter as he's promised. But in my mind, he's violating the compensation agreement that we have with him, and that he was paid $53 billion to be the CEO of Tesla. And there was nothing in that agreement that said he could buy another company, become a CEO of another company, and spend the majority of his time doing that.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah,
my mind, he's exposing the company to liability. Like, it's not his company. Okay. It's our company. It's 88% owned by other people than him.
Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
And it's not his company. And the board of directors has failed to protect the company from things that could have easily been handled correctly. Yeah. None of this should have been the drama it was. And once again, I've gotten so annoyed, I've threatened to step in. And, it's like, I know I could fix these problems in 2 minutes. I have a 4-point plan to fix Tesla. If Elon voluntarily went along and worked with me, we would have that stock back to $300 to $400. No question in my mind.
Very, very nice. Last question on this section of the video today is talking about if we did get a new CEO with a new new charge orders of how to go forward, of the things that they would focus on. Let's look at the Model 2, kind of that entry-level point, which would really address the challenges in China. Cybertruck, which would open up a whole new market demographic. And then FSD, fixing those. If you just said, okay, which one's first on the list? Which one would you say, let's go for it?
Oh, it's trucks. I mean, Cybertruck and semi-truck is most impactful for climate. There are new market segments. They're hugely impactful vehicles as far as in the marketplace and buzz, Cybertruck in particular. Yeah. I don't know what the size of the market is, but everywhere I go, I see tons of pickups. Okay. And I'm in LA.
Well, so when largest market out there in the car.
But I'm just saying I live in a non-rural environment, but when I go to San Luis Obispo and I'm hanging out with, I rent a farm up there and I love the farm. And you start, needing to haul stuff and this and that. Everybody's got a pickup. Everybody's got a Ford. Ford dominates this market. And that's what Ford needs to worry about, because one thing Elon has done is he appeals a lot more to people who drive trucks than he did before. Yeah. And so if he can get a product out there, I think he can sell it. And I think that Cybertruck rolling around in Austin is going to have quite an impact, and people are going to want to buy it, including myself. So scaling Cybertruck is the most important thing Tesla does this year. And then secondly, I would say it's really about battery tech. You didn't mention this. So scaling 4680 is really a byproduct of scaling semi and cyber, because this is the game-changing technology that keeps them from being cell constrained and then allows them to build mega packs. And energy storage is still the real linchpin for utilities moving forward, And so to me, this combination of 4680 scaling cyber and semi, and scaling mega packs, which all go hand in hand, will be massively impactful, not just with climate, but with the financials of Tesla. Right. And things like full self-driving are services revenue in my mind, like Apple, and they should immediately, it's $15,000. I think that's an absurd price. I think they should immediately make it just a subscription model that you can add on for $200 or $250 a month. You can add it, you can take it away, and make it real easy for people to buy it. Just make it real easy. And you got 8% of users using it, so you're not selling a lot of full self-driving,
Right, exactly.
And it's 100% margin. It's just 100% margin. So they should be giving this stuff away like candy.
Yeah. Do you think Tesla Deliveries, this is just a quick tweet here on Tesla's deliveries, obviously almost doubling up here from 21 to 22. So significant growth, definitely missed numbers, which is why Wall Street has been so punishing on the stock. How do you think this rolls out for 2023?
Yeah, this missing numbers stuff is just, it's so annoying to me. I literally, I've been an Apple investor my whole life, and every quarter Tim Cook is like the king of under-promising. It's like Tim and Elon should just hang out. Elon's the king of over-promising and Tim's the king of under-promising, and everybody thinks Tim's done such a great job because he beats always lowered numbers. You know what I mean? And I think this doesn't serve Tesla because it's like, oh, we're going to grow 50% a year, da, 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 and then he grows 49.9% and China's shut down for 6 weeks and, there's nothing you could do about it, And they're like, he missed his numbers. He missed his number. I go, no, that was his goal. That was his goal. Okay. Why does he do this to himself? So I think the real question is how many cars are they going to make this year?
Yeah.
And originally I thought there would be more supply chain and constraints out of China this year from last year, as zero COVID would just continue to take this huge toll. Now everything's open. So we had a hit in December, January. Okay. So we're taking the hit now for China that will pay off in 3 months after they get over this wave. Okay. So as China kind of goes through this, unfortunate herd, immunity thing, as it goes from city to city and people get COVID, the Chinese are diving into COVID full gear, like 80% of people just getting in right off the bat.
Right.
But a lot of them want to just so they can move on with their lives,
Yeah.
And so I see production in China being huge this year.
Okay.
And like deliveries being huge. I don't know how many they can make, but it's over 1 million cars in China. They can do that. That's why they cut production. They were just making too many cars. Like,
well,
it was just.
If we see those kind of numbers, then we're bound to see.
We're well over 2 million. We're over 2 million cars
on the stock.
Oh, for sure. So that's the boogeyman. So for the first time in Tesla's history, it's got a low valuation. It has horribly low expectations. It has horribly bad sentiment, and it has a 4 relative strength rating in the stock market, which means that 96% of stocks have done better than Tesla over the short term.
Yep.
Now, this is amazing to me that 96% of stocks have done better than Tesla, and yet they have blown out their numbers. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Oh, they missed. They didn't miss anything. They're growing like crazy. No other large cap is even close, but it's all about expectations. So if Elon says we're going to grow 35% a year into the sky, and then he does 45%, he's a genius,
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, going from 936 to 1.3 million is no small feat in itself. That's a big,
amazing.
It is a big move. And I think it's managing expectations, to your point, which I would agree. Ross, this has been a good one right here. We're going to jump to another video here, guys, and talk a little bit more about innovations going forward. So again, thanks for stopping in today.